What if a map drawn in 1513 showed a continent that humanity wouldn't officially discover for another 300 years? And what if that same map didn't just show the continent, but showed what it looked like before it was buried under a mile of ice? That is the mystery of a strange piece of gazelle skin discovered in a palace archive in Istanbul. At first glance, it looked like just another old map, torn, fragile, incomplete. But the more scholars studied it, the more unsettling the details became. Because the coastlines were too accurate, the distances were too precise, and at the bottom of the map, there was a landmass that shouldn't exist. A landmass that raises a disturbing question. How can a 500-year-old map show geography that modern science only discovered in the 20th century? To understand why this map is so strange, you need to imagine the world in the early 1500s. At that time, explorers were barely beginning to understand the shape of the planet. The Americas had only recently been encountered by Europeans. Entire continents were still missing from maps. Sailors navigated using stars, rough compasses, and guesswork. And there was one huge problem they simply couldn't solve: longitude. Finding your position east or west required keeping extremely precise time while traveling across oceans. But the clocks capable of doing that didn't exist yet. So maps from this era are famously distorted. Coastlines stretch and bend, continents appear swollen or crushed. Some places are drawn hundreds of miles from where they actually are, which makes the next detail about this map deeply unsettling. Because one section shows the eastern coastline of South America almost perfectly. Not vaguely correct, not approximately correct, but positioned with a level of precision that should have been impossible at the time. So the obvious question becomes, if explorers didn't know this coastline yet, then where did the information come from? The man who created the map left behind a clue. According to notes written directly on the parchment, he didn't actually explore these lands himself. Instead, he says he compiled the map from older maps, many older maps, fragments collected from sailors, explorers, and ancient sources. Some were recent charts made by European navigators, but others were far older, maps that supposedly came from ancient libraries, copies of documents whose original creators were unknown. And that's where the mystery takes its first major turn. Because if these ancient source maps were real, then someone long before the 1500s had already charted parts of the world that Europeans hadn't even reached yet. But that isn't the strangest part of the map. The strangest part lies at the very bottom. At first glance, it just looks like a long coastline stretching into the Southern Ocean. For centuries, historians assumed this was just a mistake. Medieval cartographers often invented giant southern continents to balance the world. They were imaginary, filler for the empty bottom of the map. But decades after the map was rediscovered, something unexpected happened. Scientists began mapping Antarctica using modern technology. They fired sound waves through the ice to reveal the rock beneath. For the first time in history, humanity could see the true shape of the Antarctic coastline, hidden under miles of ice. And when researchers compared that hidden coastline to the mysterious landmass on the old map, something shocking appeared. The shapes matched. Not the ice-covered outline we see today, but the actual coastline beneath the ice. The bays, the mountains, the jagged curves of the land itself. Which raises a chilling question. How could someone map Antarctica before anyone officially discovered it? And the deeper mystery is even harder to explain, because the coastline on the map doesn't show Antarctica as a frozen wasteland. It shows rivers, valleys, open land, a landscape that appears to be ice-free. Modern geology tells us that most of Antarctica has been buried under massive ice sheets for thousands of years, in some places millions. So if the map is accurate, then it may be copying information that is far older than the 1500s. Much older. Older than the Roman Empire. Older than ancient Greece. Possibly older than recorded civilization itself. Which leads to a disturbing possibility. What if the map isn't based on Renaissance exploration at all? What if it's based on knowledge from a civilization that existed long before the history we remember? At this point, skeptics usually offer a simpler explanation. Maybe the map maker just guessed. Maybe the southern coastline is actually South America, drawn badly. Maybe it's coincidence. But when scientists analyzed the map more closely, another strange detail appeared. The entire map seems to follow a complex mathematical projection, a method of flattening a globe onto a sheet of paper. And this projection appears to center the world around a specific point near Egypt. That kind of projection requires advanced knowledge of the Earth's shape and size. In other words, the original source maps may have been created by people who understood the planet far better than sailors in the 1500s, which brings us to a fascinating possibility. What if the map we see today is not the original map? What if it's simply a patchwork, a compilation made from much older documents? Imagine taking 20 ancient charts, some accurate, some distorted, some thousands of years old, and trying to stitch them together into one map. You would expect mistakes, overlapping coastlines, rivers drawn twice, islands that don't exist. And that's exactly what we see. But inside those mistakes, there are also pieces of information that seem far too accurate for their time, almost as if fragments of much older knowledge survived long enough to be copied, recopied, and eventually stitched together onto a piece of gazelle skin. Which leads to the most unsettling question of all. If an ancient civilization really did map parts of the world thousands of years ago, where did they go? Civilizations disappear all the time. Cities sink beneath rising seas. Glaciers grind entire landscapes into dust. Metal rusts, stone erodes. Within a few thousand years, even great empires can vanish almost completely. All that remains are fragments, ruins, stories, and sometimes pieces of information that survive by accident. Imagine a library full of ancient maps. Now imagine that library burning. Only a handful of documents escape, copied by later generations who no longer understand the mathematics behind them. Centuries pass, the originals are forgotten, but their echoes remain, fragments preserved in unexpected places, like a mysterious map found centuries later in a palace archive. And that brings us back to the gazelle skin, because the map we have today is only one fragment, roughly 1/3 of the original. The rest is missing, torn away by time, or perhaps destroyed. Which raises one final question. What did the missing sections show? Did they reveal other coastlines long before they were officially discovered? Did they contain even more impossible geography? Or did they show a version of the world that no longer exists? We may never know, but the fragment that survived is enough to challenge the story we tell about human history. We like to imagine civilization as a straight line, from primitive beginnings to modern progress. Stone tools, agriculture, cities, technology. But what if that story is incomplete? What if knowledge has been lost before? What if entire chapters of human history vanished long before we started writing it down? If that's true, then the mysterious map from 1513 isn't just a historical curiosity. It's a message from a forgotten past, a reminder that knowledge can disappear, civilizations can collapse, and the world we think we understand may only be the latest version of a much older story. The next time you look at a map of the world, remember that strange piece of gazelle skin, because somewhere beneath the oceans, beneath the ice, and buried deep beneath the timeline of human history, there may be truths we have completely forgotten. And if even one fragment of that lost knowledge survived long enough to reach us, then one question still remains. What else is waiting to be rediscovered?